In an age where we know more than we ever have before about child development, about the importance of good parenting, and about the terrible consequences of child abuse and neglect, at a time in human history when we have greater affluence, better access to education, a plethora of high-tech amenities and a multitude of social services, we in New Zealand are confronting truly shocking statistics for domestic violence, child abuse and neglect. In fact, in this year alone, in just 1 month, there were 6,000 reported incidents of child abuse to child, youth and family. And of course we can assume that there were countless other cases that were never reported. How can this be? Why are so many of our families and children vulnerable and at risk?
Kia ora, welcome to Baha'i On Air. I'm Bev Watson. Today we have the special privilege of speaking with Jenny Hindin-Miller. Jenny is the director of Karanga Mai Young Parents College in North Canterbury. Welcome to Baha'i On Air, Jenny. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you, Bev.
Jenny, how did you come to be involved in a school for young parents?
Well, I was working in the 1990s as a support worker in North Canterbury, working with teenage parents, and in 1996, a couple of the young women with whom I was working came to me and they said that they would really like a bit of support with some schooling that they were thinking of doing. And because my background had been in secondary school teaching, I hadn't been a teacher for a number of years, but that was my first training, and then my subsequent training was as a social worker and as a counsellor. But when they came to me and said that they'd really like to do a bit of study, I was very excited because you can't repress a teacher. Once a teacher, always a teacher. So I thought, okay, well, I'll set up a small study group to support these young women in their plans. And so I set up this little study group and we met a couple of times a week and we had the children with us and it was all very small scale and homegrown. We were in a rented church hall at the time. And we developed, and I was very fortunate to be supported by quite a forward-looking community trust in Waimakariri, and so they supported me to grow this little study group, and we grew and we grew and we became a school. And now today we're a full-time school for teenage parents, and we, after a very long struggle, convinced the Ministry of Education that this was a worthy project to support. There were only 2 schools in New Zealand in the 1990s, so it was a very kind of new and quite a challenging concept for the Ministry of Education to get their heads around, but they saw the real success that we were having with our young parents, you know, that these young people were actually continuing with their education, which you know, was a big thing because so many of the young women with whom we were working had left school early. They had no school qualifications and really had no kind of hope of ever continuing with their school studies once they had children. So because of the success of the work that we were doing, the ministry agreed to fund us gradually, slowly, and now today we have full funding as a school, and because of the funding from the Ministry of Education, there are now 17 schools for teenage parents in New Zealand and 5 more currently under development. So it's a successful concept which is much needed in New Zealand because, as you probably know, New Zealand has the second highest rate of births to teen parents in the OECD, and so we have a lot of teenage parents in New Zealand, and so many of them you know, have not completed their schooling and really need the educational support that we have to offer them.